Welcome to the participants to our next Friday, Power Friday workshop. This one's titled Building Your Circle of Support. And I'm Marissa Matz, the founder of Matz Learning Solutions and Rising Legacy, where we're here to be talking about a very important topic near and dear to my heart that doesn't often get brought up in learning environments, which is how to find and build and cultivate relationships both in the workplace and in your personal lives to support your growth and development. So I am a leadership development consultant and facilitator with over 20 years of experience working with leaders and organizations on their development from particular skills to self-leadership to well-being so that we're able to lead in workplaces and organizations to the most effective ways possible. So today's workshop will focus on three different objectives that I'm going to be sharing with you. The first objective is how do we identify people in our lives, in our workplaces, in our social environments that align with who we are and what we want out of our leadership journey. So first, how to find the people. Secondly, when we do, how do we figure out if they are providing us with meaningful and energizing support? Because through years and through different stages of our career maturity, I like to call it, at one stage in our lives, one person can be that energizing support and person of encouragement. But maybe through the years, you might evolve and need someone different. So we're going to be able to identify who do we need right now? Who's in our circle right now? Who do we need to refresh to find people that can give us the right support for our current stage in our lives? And then the third is how do we create a circle that expands our potential? So we're looking at the people who are in our circle today. How do we refresh it to find the right people and then figure out how do we reciprocate and create multi-pronged relationships that can help us to move forward. So I know it might sound a little bit complex. It's not that hard. I don't have that much time. I want to bring us together to figure out what do we do next to build this circle of support for ourselves. How's that sound, everybody? You can write it in the chat or just, yeah, thumbs up is great in the camera. So our first discussion is first to answer this question, do I really need a circle of support? So this topic stems from a personal experience. You know, all of these topics, all of the workshops, I like to build in personal stories of how I got to where I am. And the first thing I want to share with you is, you know, I consider myself a leadership professional. I've been in leadership roles. I've worked with leaders my entire career. And even the strongest leaders need reminders of their abilities, of their potential, because leadership can be a very isolating and lonely place. When we acquire job roles, we might feel like we're standing alone on one side of the line and everyone else is on the other side. And if I think about my experience of getting to where I've gotten over the course of my career, I have really leaned on people around me to keep me up. You know, there's days or there's periods or seasons of our lives where we topple over. We're like, oh gosh, can I really face tomorrow? And I just text somebody or I ask somebody to have lunch with me and they lift me right up. And I really can attest to the reason I've gotten here is because of the people that I've surrounded myself with. So that's how I came up with this topic of wanting to share with you why we need circles of support. Secondly, is that leadership is full of moments that test us. I also think about parenthood. I have two small children. Uh, Being a parent has definitely tested me. But if we apply this to leadership, even if we don't have a team that reports directly to us currently in the workplace, we are still leaders for ourselves. So I want you to think about surrounding yourself with people that can help you speak up, find your voice, figure out what to do next, because these insights, these voices, these people around us can plant small seeds in our brains that can help us flourish and do things that we never thought we could. The third reason is that our growth shouldn't come at the cost of burnout. I often work with women leaders, particularly who work long hours, who go above and beyond on their teams. And they usually come to me for help and support when they're at the point of burnout, when they can't do it anymore. They don't want to do it anymore. They can do it because we can do anything, but they don't want to do it anymore. And so this circle of support that we're going to be forming for you today is the group of people I want you to think about that help you move forward with clarity and understand what your real capacity is. Um, I had a coach once share with me the insight around, what do boundaries look like for you, Marissa? I was like, boundaries? I have none. I just live day to day, like survival mode. And the word boundaries was such an interesting concept because I never saw my mother have boundaries. That meant that maybe me as a working mother too couldn't have boundaries. And so these people in my life that I have surrounded myself with have just been these little birdies, if you will. And I invite you to consider what these people can do for you as well. So these are some reasons why we need a circle of support. Now we're going to get into 3 specific steps. I'm going to run through them. And as we go through each 3, I invite you to take notes. I invite you to have the chat open here in Zoom where you can participate either by typing or if, I will give you all a chance, a couple minutes here to come off mute if you want to share anything aloud. Okay, so here we go with step number 1 of how to build this circle of support. And that is first figuring out who these people are. Over the course of a couple of years, I've been talking about this particular action, leadership action of building your circle of support. And even the identification of who these people are, people struggle with. And so that's why I want to bring this to your attention. First, we have to think about who aligns with me, who aligns with my leadership journey. And so there might be some pre-work that you have to do before you start making a list of who can be in your circle of support. And the first thing is looking for people who might see your same vision for the future. Now, they don't have to be called to you by your level or your role in your company or your organization, or they don't have to be aligned with your work experience or your job history and your resume. I want you to think about keeping your eyes open now of people in your network or in your community that see your similar vision for the future. The second way to find these people is to ask yourself, who shares similar values, where we can build mutual support and grow together in the same direction. Now, a circle of support isn't necessarily a mentor or mentee relationship or a coach or a coachee relationship. A circle of support should be built on reciprocity, where you're contributing to someone's life just as much as they're contributing to your life. And that's why this alignment is so important, so that you're moving in similar directions together. Okay, so keep that in mind, because then the third item I want you to think about is these people are already around you. Your peers, your mentors, any collaborators that you work with inside your industry, outside of your industry. And now I want you to keep your eyes open and scan. Who would you consider to be someone that you want to cultivate relationships with? And I'm going to invite you to write this point down. That's not on my slides that I share with people. Your circle of support shouldn't be too big. I don't want you to feel like you have to be best friends with everybody. I encourage you to think about the palm of your hand or your hand. Max 5 people, max. Because if we think about how busy we are in our day-to-days, like having lunch, having coffee with a bunch of people can be daunting and it can be a lot of work. And I want you to think about just to start off with 1 or 2 people. Who could you call into your circle of support? 1 to 2 people. And once you start having a flow in a relationship, again, a reciprocal relationship with 1 or 2 people, then think about maybe a third person and a fourth person, but no more than 5. And the reason I like to use the hand visual is because we sit at our desks, we're at work, we're in our kitchens, we're helping out with family members using our hands. And our hands can be something that reminds us of our circle of support every single day. And so that's why I like to call it like your top 5, your 5 people. Okay. So that's just another anecdote that a Marissa-ism that I like to add. So now in your journals, if you have a notebook in front of you, I want you to just take a minute here. And I want you to think about someone who you've met recently or you've connected with recently who you sense alignment with. What's one way you can deepen that connection with that one person, maybe in the next week? Okay, so first think of a person, and then one action you can do to deepen that connection with them. So I'm going to give you 1 minute of silence. You're not going to share this with anybody. Just write some thoughts down, anything that comes to mind initially, and then we'll go to step 2. Okay, so 1 minute. So now that we've thought about maybe one person and how we want to deepen a connection with one person, after today's session, start thinking of person number 2 or 3, or if you already have 3, who could be number 4 for you. And moving into step 2, once you've started to identify people and scan who you're in relationships with today, secondly is to understand what exactly does it mean to feel supported in this circle of support? Because it should be more than just somebody cheering you on. It should be someone who you can reach out to, um, who responds in a consistent way, who has your back. I think about the most important top 5 people in my circle today. And they're the ones who I can connect with, that I can either text and they respond, or call out of the blue. I know that we might not pick up the phone as easily today and call people and talk versus texting or emailing. I think that's maybe more of the preferred mode of communication. But what you know is that they're there to listen. I want you to think of maybe like a best friend or a good friend of yours who you know that you can just reach out to and they're there for you. That's what I want you to think about, maybe in a more professional setting. Who's your go-to person at work? Who's your go-to person in your friend life? Who's your go-to person in your family? Those are the people showing up consistently, knowing that you're going to receive support from that person. So listening is really important. And then reliability and consistency is the second part. What I want you to then think about is, after you talk to that person, what do you notice about your body? Does your body and your mind feel clearer? Or you're like, oh, I feel so much better. Do you feel drained after talking to that person? Recently I connected with a friend of mine that I've known for 20 years. Maybe earlier in my life, I considered her to be in my circle of support. She's still a friend, but she's not the top five today. And the reason is in my last call, I hung up the phone and I felt so drained. And I just told myself, sheesh, I'm not sure I could talk to her for a while. Now, again, she's still my friend. I still love her. But what I'm not getting from her right now is this real sense of support. I hope that makes sense. Friends and people come in and out of our lives. That's normal. But when you think about this circle of support, that top five, palm of your hand people, they're the ones that should leave you feeling energized and clearer and grounded and not drained. They serve a different role in your life and maybe you in theirs, but really assess your body and what your body's telling you. Okay. Then the last thing group is energizing support should be able to reflect your values back to you. Sometimes we know that we have a set of values that we operate from, due to the way that we were raised or what we've been taught over the course of our lives. But you should see reflected back to you your leadership purpose and values, like what you're on this planet to do. And it should be a cool refresher. Like that, that is why I get up every day. That is why I'm doing the work that I do. You should be able to see that reflected back to you because you're going to forget. You're going to feel drained. You're going to feel tired. You're going to feel stressed. And when you connect with someone from your circle of support, you should be reminded of what you're trying to do. So this exercise is in the chat. So if everybody could open up the chat here, and I'd love to get your thoughts around your experiences and your preferences. So complete this sentence in the chat, please. I feel most supported when. And if you want to put in, more than one idea at a time, that's fine. But just, think about what initially comes to mind. I feel most supported when, and I'm going to participate too. So I'll give us a minute to do that. Okay. Thank you. So let's take a look. I feel most supported when I'm being listened to. I feel most supported when someone texts me back, when I feel that we picked up from where we left off during the last conversation, when they validate my perspective and keep me going in the direction that I picked, even if it's taking longer than expected. When they smile back to me in my hardest days, when people reach out and make time for me. Okay, thank you so much. So, this is a good reminder of what we might need from these people and assess, am I getting that today? And if we're not group, you go back to step one, which is who's around me, who's in my circle, how can I deepen a relationship with someone that's out there so that I can feel supported for step two. Now, transitioning into step three, and again, it's layered. So step one, step two, step three here is to create a circle that expands our potential. So we are where we are, in our jobs, in our level, in our organization, but there's more. There's more in our personal lives. There's more at work. So, these people that we form in our top five, this circle shouldn't be a circle that adds pressure to you or expectations or, what have you done since we talked last time? It shouldn't be that. It should be a place where we release pressure because we're under enough, right? In our society, in our jobs, in our lives, in our home lives, like we should come to a place, to a conversation, to a space with a trusted person in our circle and release pressure, where we don't feel like we have to go above and beyond. Um, so this bullet point says you don't need to overfunction to deserve support. So I was mentioning earlier that I recently engaged in a conversation with leaders around workplace well-being. And during this conversation, we talked about who deserves a healthy workplace. Is it just the people at the top who might be perceived as having more pressure than anyone else? We all deserve to be supported to expand our potential. We don't have to be performing and uh, top of our team to deserve support. Everyone, really thinking about this on a more equitable approach is so key because we all have um, the desire to be in community with people. And then the last part is we shouldn't be adding these relationships or these groups of people to feel like we have to impress them or manage them or feel like we're engaged in emotional labor. These top 5 should be easy. Like they love us for who we are in our good days and bad days and our non-makeup days and made-up days in suits. This isn't a place or a relationship to impress at all. Like, I am here, this is me, and I need support, and I'm here to give you support in our most purest, raw place. So, the last question here is I thought that I'd have enough time for breakout, but we can form just a verbal dialogue amongst the 4 of us here, which is thinking about a challenge that we've been holding on to. What could we bring up in this circle? So, at least there's less than 5 that made a cool group here, where if we were to form an impromptu circle of support right here on this call, what could we share with the group, a challenge that's just been sitting there that you say, I'm going to bring it up. What's on your minds, group? What could you bring forward in this circle?
Marissa, I can volunteer, even though
Mandy,
it's a
please go
touchy
ahead.
subject, but I can volunteer for that one.
Anything you feel comfortable sharing. You don't have to give
Yeah,
us
no, no, no. So I'm
names or
actually,
details.
yeah. So I'm going through a new career journey, so a new role at the moment. So I'm going through kind of rounds of interviews and kind of discussions. I think that's kind of the challenge that if you look at my kind of comments there too, it's taking me a little bit longer than what I was expecting. But I'm kind of looking for that, I guess, support group to validate and that perspective and say, okay, it's taking longer, but yes, you're still on the right path. So I think that's kind of where my kind of journey is, and that's kind of where my example was coming from.
You know, this question, this exercise is to initiate the idea of how to formulate our words to be shared. Because we all walk around in our day-to-days with things that we're dealing with, challenges, issues, easier problems to solve, harder problems to solve. And the moment that we can articulate it out loud, it can feel liberating. It can feel smaller than the issue might be when you're noodling over it and over analyzing it in your head and you say it out loud, you're like, oh, okay.
It's not that
This
bad.
could be my first approach.
Yeah.
And you can take this like self-initiating problem solving the moment it comes out of your mouth. And so when you have this circle of support to take time to listen, for you to vocalize, a challenge that you've been holding on to, you can ultimately solve it on your own by initiating that. And so, today was about hearing from participants um, in these moments of what's happening right now, no judgment, say it out loud, and giving and allowing space for sharing. So thank you so much for being vulnerable in that and bringing that up. It's career transition can be um, an unknown, and whenever especially adults, move into the unknown, we have a variety of complex feelings of wanting to go back to the way it used to be, but knowing how exciting the future can be if we can get through this period and move forward, just this um, uh, volatile and unknown period um, of no movement. Like you just want to go forward. It can
Yeah.
be the hardest time is in this phase. And it does feel like a long time because you just want to get to the next thing.
Yeah.
So I hope that's helpful,
Yeah.
Mandy,
Yeah. That was
to
good.
think about what comes next and sharing this to then receive validation and knowing that someone heard you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So, group, the final thoughts here is it has to start with us, leading the way to be the kind of support that you're looking for. So, strong circles of support are built with intention. And so that's what this whole session was about is first identifying what is your leadership purpose, what are the values that you have, and then finding people that align with that so you can all move forward in that direction. Um, Trust is a slow build. And, today, if your circle of support maybe doesn't exist, or you might have, one trusted colleague or partner that you can call your circle of support, go to the next person, number two or number three, and know that relationships take time. Totally okay. You don't have to be BFFs with someone instantly and have chemistry. That's not what this is. This is about building relationships through time. And guess what? You can go first. You can go first to reach out. We're human. We're made to build relationships and community with people. Feeling isolated and lonely can be so draining, especially in the workplace. How can we be the first person to initiate, to show up in an honest way, show up with generosity of your time? And there's no better time than now. Now you've come to this workshop and you're thinking, who's in my circle of support? So this is your action, everybody. It's your homework for the time you've spent here. Within the next week, maybe the next day, I know today's Friday, initiate a real talk moment with someone. Share your leadership challenge, maybe one that you thought of just now that you're facing, and then ask for their honest insight. What would you do? How would you help me approach this? Or you can just say, look, I'm looking for some encouragement. I don't really need your advice. I just need some encouragement. This is what's happening to me. Or the opposite. I need your advice. I this is what's happening. What would you do? Set the stage for the person, and that's how you start. Starting can be the hardest part is how to find people, how to reach out. It doesn't have to be complex. It just can be, I want to run something by you. What do you think of this? So, group, I'm going to pause here. I have a couple minutes. What thoughts do you have, or what questions do you have about maybe something that's going on here or with you currently that brought you to this session that you want to share out loud? So, free form group, thoughts, please.
I, I just, it's a great reminder that we need our support. Again, we're so busy, us women, that we do forget to take time out and to look for that support because we always, we're the last people. We think that it's more selfish, but it's not. So this is why I joined today's session. Is just a great reminder that we need that support for us to push through and to move forward.
And we do put ourselves last. We take care of everyone else all
Mm-hmm.
around us. We make sure everyone has everything that they need. And then we, at the end of every night, will sit back in the sofa. That's what I do. And it's
Exactly.
like, oh God, what about me?
Exactly. I have to think of the oxygen mask, right? When we're on
Yeah,
flights, you have
take
to,
care of
the
ourselves.
analogy, yes, you have to put that to you first. You cover yourself first so you can breathe, so then you
Yeah,
can be healthy and help others as well. So it's really hard to
exactly.
do.
Yeah.
But when you have a support group like this, when you have your support, everybody has those great reminders. And it's not selfish.
No, it's not selfish, and you're not alone.
Yep.
They're feeling it too. And that's
Mm-hmm.
this reciprocity mindset that I invite you all to take with you is that you're providing as much support to people as they are to you. It's not
Exactly.
just taking from others or giving others. It should be on both sides.
Absolutely.
Definitely keep that in mind. So, team, thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to transition to the next slide. Unfortunately, my text box, I'm going to show you what happened. My text box is a little bit lower than I thought it would be. This photograph, first, I want to share with you, is my expanded circle of support. I know I told you to keep it to 5. But over the course of my career, I have been fortunate to create very deep relationships with these people in this picture. Last year, I celebrated my 10-year anniversary of my consultancy, and I had a celebration. And I invited my most trusted circle of people to a dinner to celebrate and to thank them for every single conversation, lunch, cup of coffee, glass of wine that these people there, you'll notice there's like 90% women and 3 guys standing tall in the back. But these not only are my friends, but they're the ones who've supported me in my career over the last 22 years. I don't expect anyone to have a group like this, but if you do, phenomenal. And this is why this workshop came about, is because these people helped me. I didn't do any of my work all alone, and the circle of support, start small, can grow into these rich relationships. So I wanted to share that with you. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your Friday and great weekend. Thank you so much for coming. I will see you soon. Again, my next one's in June. Okay,
We'll be
thanks
there.
Thank
so
you,
much.
Marissa.
You're welcome. Good to see you all.
Thanks so much,
Bye-bye.
Marcel. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.